Hello and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynne Testoni. I'm a journalist and content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we bring you all kinds of tips, tricks and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business. I just want to give a shout out to Rounded, our sponsor, because I know for me, my quarterly BAS used to be so stressful. But I love Rounded because everything is there and so tidy, Rach.
I know, no more shoe boxes of receipts. I also really love that my accountant can log into the program remotely and help me with lodgement. Just do it without me needing to even worry about it.
That's what we love.
But best of all, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can save 20% on any annual Rounded plan. Even if you've got the Rounded discount last year, you can get it this year as well.
Awesome. The show notes always have the details.
Yeah.
Hey, Rachel. It's great to be back.
Yes.
It's really nice. But things are getting busy for me. Are you busy as well? It's the end of the year. It's all happening.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm pretty busy. I'm also really trying to focus on my marketing to try and bring in leads for February. So I'm not taking my foot off the gas just yet. But I'm really excited at all the great guests we've had on. And we have another one today talking about building a sustainable freelance career. And she's also going to chat to us about Substack, which is a personal interest of mine. I love seeing writers starting to dominate on Substack.
It's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So shall I intro her and then we can get her in the hot seat?
That'd be great.
Okay. Lizzie Mulherin is a freelance writer, brand strategist and travel author with 15 years of global experience. The last 5 running her own business. She's worked with top brands such as Red Bull, Afterpay, David Jones and Victoria and Woods, with writing featured in Marie Claire, Cosmopolitan, Australian Traveller, HuffPost and Time Out. And through her platform, Create Your Living, which we're going to talk to her about, Lizzie helps writers build thriving freelance businesses and get paid to do what they love. Welcome, Lizzie. Great to have you.
Welcome.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
It's such a great portfolio you've got there. Some really interesting clients. And so tell us a bit about where you started and when and how you transitioned to freelancing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's been accumulating. As you said, it's, 15 years in the making now. And I think when you hear all of those sort of publications and brands all in one go, it might sound a little bit impressive, but it's been a very non-linear sort of gradual journey, I have to say.
For most people.
Yeah, exactly. That's the quote unquote freelance experience, isn't it? So yeah, while I always loved writing, I actually went into PR after uni. So it was something I sort of fell into, I think, out of a safety net. I had a job offer at an agency I was interning at, and I had, those belief in my head that writers couldn't make money. It was too hard, etc. So I took that job thinking, I better take this job. And I ended up working at a pretty fancy PR agency over in London, which was a great experience. I worked with some great people over there, but I just felt really unfulfilled. I wanted to be writing more. So I started writing on the side over in London. I was 24 for Huffington Post, Time Out. And I also started a travel blog with a girlfriend of mine. And this is back in 2014. So that space was yet to be oversaturated like it is now. And the travel blog actually did quite well. So we had a lot of fun with that. We were able to get some trips out of it and just really enjoyed it. So eventually I left the PR job, had got a job in hospitality to pay the bills while focusing on the writing. And that was a great experience. After my UK visa was up, I moved to Amsterdam. And that's where I went full-time freelance, quote unquote, full-time freelance for the first time. And I had a great experience, but I also had so much to learn. I had no idea about, the business of writing, you might say. I didn't know how to package my services or price my services. And I ended up burning out after about a year. I only had a year in Amsterdam. That's all the visa would allow me unless I was employed. And after that, I came back to Australia and I ended up going back in-house at a global marketing team. Again, great experience. I was working at an excellent travel brand. But after a few years there, I felt that tug again of wanting to write, wanting to work for myself. And I got to the point where I just couldn't ignore it. So at the end of 2019, I took the leap, which would be the last time I would leap out of the security, I suppose, of employment and into working for myself. And that was 5 years ago. I've been running my own business since then, absolutely loving it. I've never looked back. And yeah, that's how I've sort of the roundabout way that I've gotten into freelancing.
How interesting, because you're a bit similar to me in the mix of work that you do. Like you
Yeah.
do a lot of journalism, but and
Yeah.
also a lot of copywriting. So
Yeah.
how did you get into copywriting? Did you train or you self-taught? How did all that work?
Yeah, I was actually self-taught. It was quite organic. At uni, I studied a double degree in journalism and business, and I majored in PR. I don't think you need to have studied anything to be a successful writer, just FYI, but I did. And, you know, I always really loved feature writing, and that was, I suppose, like my first sort of, business building that I started with the freelance writing. I was doing a lot of travel writing over in Amsterdam. And it wasn't until I actually went back in-house and I started getting to, in that global marketing team doing copywriting more in-house. And I also had exposure there to brand strategy and marketing and how that all sort of came into play. And then I ended up, when I went out on my own that last time, offering copywriting as, website copywriting and social as well, because, they're all transferable skills. They're different very much, the product that you're creating, but it's very transferable. So it all kind of ended up sort of feeding into each other in quite an organic way, I would say.
It's interesting as well that you've separated those two sides of your business with two separate sites.
Yes.
Because some people do that and some people try and jam it all into the one. But did you just feel it really needed to be separate?
Well, it's so funny you say this because I'm actually in the process of having them brought back together.
Right.
But I think, again, that's the nature of business. Things change. For a long time, it definitely served me to have them separate. When I first started, I just had, my own name. It was like LM, copy and brand, that I just made a very, very average site with my own very poor abilities of site building. And I had, everything that I've ever written all under that umbrella because I didn't have that much. I was trying to build it all up. But after about a year of full-time self-employment, I decided to separate them because I created a business called Right on Brand. So I wanted to have my copywriting and brand services under not my name. And then I wanted to be free to write editorially about things that I was just curious about and interested in without it necessarily impacting my brand work or my client work or having to be seen under the same umbrella. So that was the rationale there. And it's been great. Like, as I said, definitely served me for a while, but I'm now at a point where it's actually kind of all coming back together anyway. A lot of the brand work I'm doing is very aligned with the editorial work I do. And, I do find that a lot of brand and copywriting clients are very impressed by the editorial work and vice versa. So it's helpful to just have it all back under the one umbrella. So I've hired an amazing web designer, and that's actually going to be launching in the next couple of weeks. So I'm not sure when this will be going out, but maybe by the time it's out, the new website will be up. But yeah, I feel really good about putting it back under the umbrella. I think it's a personal choice. If you're wanting to build out a business, create more of an agency and bring people on, it's helpful to have a name that's not necessarily your own, but then it can work either way, I believe. Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think people are less worried about blending copy and journalism as they used to be. I think that it's acknowledged that you have to do both.
Absolutely.
To survive and be flexible.
To survive. Exactly. Absolutely. It's like an ecosystem, I find. They all kind of end up feeding into each other. And also there's a lot of blending now. I'm finding on the client side, a lot of clients will hire me to write specifically editorial style, like journalistic style, long form pieces. So they want that. And a lot of brands are creating their own publication. So it's all just kind of overlaying anyway.
I find that too. I think that's where I first started writing content, then into copy because they wanted that editorial style approach, I think. I think it's interesting.
And like you say, Lizzie, brands are so impressed, aren't they, with those mastheads. So it kind of makes sense from that perspective to bring it all under the same umbrella, as you say. I think.
Absolutely. It really adds a lot of credibility. Absolutely. And as you say, like financially, it's kind of hilarious, like the difference in what you can make, I find anyway, for like, an editorial piece, especially if it's online or versus like, for a brand that's got a bigger budget, there's a lot more money to be made in the brand side of things, I find, but it all kind of feeds into each other in a beautiful way.
I do find that some of the magazines and things I write for are also quite impressed by the corporate stuff.
Yeah.
Because they want they're trying to attract advertisers. They want somebody who can write that way as well, or understand commercial goals.
Absolutely. Yeah. Consumer driven content is so important. So yeah, people who have an understanding, as you say, of the end goal, it's always just like a way to help sell yourself even further, I find. Yeah.
Mm. Well, look, I know you have strong views on having a business mindset, and you clearly do yourself, given what we've been talking about. So talk us through that for people who, aren't familiar with that term or aren't really sure how it might apply to them.
Yeah, I love this question because, I do have very strong views on this one. And that's something, as you mentioned before, my journey has been far from linear. And when I went out on my own and was first kind of, I want to say attempting, I was first freelancing technically, when I was over in London and Amsterdam, I was like 26, and I just had no idea about any of the business side of things. And I had no idea about the mindset side of things either. And I didn't realize, because it was so subconscious, but I still held these beliefs in my mind that like writers couldn't make money. It was going to be a struggle. Self-employment is risky. It's not sustainable, all of these things. And that absolutely contributed to the burnout that I experienced, 12 months later, because your mindset impacts your actions. And so I wasn't charging enough for the work that I was doing. And then as a result, I was having to take on lots of work. So I was very stressed. I wasn't enjoying myself. Like, it was a completely unsustainable way of working. And it was all part of the experience, right? All learnings that I was then able to apply when I went out on my own, 5 years ago. And that's been why it's been so successful, is because I've always prioritized my mindset since, going out on my own at the end of 2019. It's super important to me. I do all kinds of things to really nurture that. If I'm ever slipping into like a lack mentality, or, I didn't get a job that I thought I was going to land, or a client's, pulled out or something, I'll like go back in and I'll do like meditations. I'll listen to podcasts on other writers who have experienced the same things and come through the end, and journal, like doing whatever I need to do to sort of get my head back in the game has been super important. And that's really been the foundation, I believe, for why I've been able to, really enjoy my business, really enjoy working for myself. Because at the end of the day, that's, life is short, and I got out of those other jobs because I wasn't fulfilled. And fulfillment is always my ultimate goal. So cultivating a positive mindset is key to that for me. Yeah.
So with that sort of mindset things, do you think that success breeds success? So if you're successful, maybe it affects your confidence or whatever. And I guess I'd want to know is, how do you first break through?
Yeah.
How do you make that things and securing those first clients or editors? How do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely believe that success breeds success. Like, if you're doing well, your confidence in your ability builds, and the better you perform, and that comes through when you're pitching or meeting people. I've secured clients in some of the randomest ways because I've had, more confidence in my ability. I'll be more confident to just claim that I'm a writer when I meet people. Even at social, not even networking events, and they'll end up saying, "Oh, you're a freelance writer. We need one at my work." And then I've ended up getting clients that way. And even that sort of thing can happen more often if you've got a more sort of confidence and sort of success happening. But obviously that initial breakthrough can be really intimidating when you haven't got any runs on the board yet. And that's definitely one of the most common questions, my coaching clients will ask me as well. And I know it might sound a bit of a generic piece of advice, but at the crux of it, it's of breaking through. It's to actually start and then to persist. Because I think that's where the mindset comes in again. So many people, dream of writing, but then they talk themselves out of it before they even try, or they'll, send one pitch off and they won't hear back, or they'll get a rejection and they never go again. I've had so many runs and so many rejections from different editors and publications I've pitched to, and then you just keep going. But in a practical sense, there are a few things that you can do if you're super fresh. You can start small with, local publications, community papers, university publications. If you're wanting to go the more copywriting side, small businesses, charity organizations, there's so many businesses out there that need words and need people who can help them communicate. You can also, complete work experience or internships at publications or in-house agencies. I did all of the above when I was just starting out. You can also go big. And again, this is where the confidence comes in. And so, for example, when I was at uni, I completed a week of work experience at Cosmopolitan, and I never got the chance to meet Bronwyn McCann, who was the editor back at the time. And I really wanted to meet her because I was like, this is my chance to, stand out and connect with her. And she wasn't in. So a few weeks later, actually, I stalked out her personal email address, and I sent a very personalized and very carefully worded email. And I think it was something like a pitch from an aspiring Cosmo writer was like the subject or something like that. And it was short, it was concise. It was just like saying, you know, I never got the chance to meet you, but it was quite heartfelt. And she actually wrote back, and
Oh, wow.
it was like, I'll never forget. I was, you know, a teenager, and I was like, oh my God, she's responded, you know, seeing her name in my inbox was super exciting. So I've done all of the above. You can start small, go big. I would like do as much of it as you can. And the more runs you get on the board, the more confident you'll feel.
It's funny what you said as well about how people that you coach, you know, might pitch and then not follow up or basically abandon ship. And I just did a poll in the wrap up in the big letter that I do every Friday. And I asked how many times people follow up. It was something like 80% of people follow up once or twice, 10% 3 or 4 times,
Wow.
7% until I'm told to go away,
Nice.
and nearly 3% never follow up.
Oh my God, I know, it's crazy, isn't it? And it's also, it's human. I understand, you know, when you're, you know, a new as well, and you are so scared of bothering people, you're scared of, and, you know, getting scolded or whatever, but people are so busy. Like I did a stint when I was in London as well, working in-house as a travel and lifestyle reporter. So I was on the inside, you could say, and I would see what it was like, the amount of PR pitches and pitches they get every day, those inboxes. Like, it's so hard. It's so hard for you to see. And even now, like still to this day, even if I count it as a win, if I just get a reply, even if it's a rejection, I'm like, oh my God, it got their attention enough for them to open the email, and they cared enough to take the time to hit reply and say, look, thanks, not this time, but, you know, we like this XYZ, maybe next time. You know, even just that is a win that is worth celebrating in my books.
I know, because I think that we, you know, no matter how long you've been in the game, and I've been freelancing over 20 years.
Yeah.
I really hate following up.
Yeah.
You know, I did it with a lead the other day, and I like had the conversation, did the proposal. And I thought, haven't heard, it's been a week, so I have to follow up. And she's like, yes, I got the proposal. We're having a meeting to discuss it, and we'll be in touch. But all of that is just so icky to me.
It's so icky.
So I still struggle with it.
Of course. Yeah, it is icky, I think. And there's a lot of, you know, ickiness that comes with like sales for writers, or, you know, putting yourself out there or feeling like you're bothering people, because, you know, most people are writers because they're creatives at heart. So I think those things don't commonly go hand in hand, but it's a skill to cultivate, being able to do that. And it's something you can build for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we just talked a little bit about confidence, but let's just go back into that in regards to, you know, people who are experienced like us, who might be, you know, more at the upper level of senior, are trying to secure those high paying clients. What would be your tips or confidence boosters for those people who are listening?
Yeah, I think there are a few layers to building confidence. I think firstly, seeing to believe that something is possible is really important, because if you don't even believe that you can land, that you could get a copywriting project for 20 grand or whatever, or high or whatever it is, it's going to be really hard to do that if you don't believe it's possible. So like getting exposure to more senior copywriters, whether that's through, you know, networking groups or events like the Content Bite Summit, or, you know, whatever it might be, getting exposure to people who are sort of in that next tier that you want to get into, to see how they're doing it, see, okay, they're doing it. If them, why not me? Okay, it's possible. It's like that 1 minute mile sort of analogy. And then secondly, you know, action builds confidence. So taking small steps over time, you know, to build up to where you want to go. You know, every time it's like that neural, I'm not a neuroscientist, obviously, but, you know, like, the neural, like the fire and wire, every time you complete something, you go, yes, I can do this. And you just keep building that up. So in my first year of freelance writing, for example, like I was very happy securing the lower paying clients, like, you know, small businesses who didn't have much budgets. That was perfect for me, because I was like, okay, I'm confident that I can deliver a product that's worth this much, and that, you know, whatever. And then as that built and they got great results and they gave me great feedback, okay, I can start to build to the next tier. Obviously it's that, you know, that new devil comes in every time. Still for me, you know, to this day, like if I'm sending off a proposal for an amount of money that I've never quoted for a project before, I'm like, I get butterflies. I have the whole process, but that just means you're growing. So I take that as now as like a sign of growth rather than a sign of, I shouldn't be doing this or it's not worth it. So yeah, being able to sort of like slowly build up over time, I think is a really important way to do it. And also just convincing yourself that you're capable of doing it. So I actually have I've called it like a feel good folder. And it's like all of the positive feedback that I've gotten from clients over the years and years. And I just keep it all together in a folder. And if I'm, leveling up and I'm like, there's a new devil there, if I need to rally myself, I'll scroll through the positive feedback. Like, yes, okay, I can, it's like a hyping yourself up. Like, okay, I can, I can deliver this product. I can do it. So those are the 3 layers of it for me.
I love the feel good folder.
We
all need one of those.
Yeah, we all need one of those.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And now you've set up a course for writers. That's really interesting. How did that come about? Are you still writing?
Yeah. So the course is called Use Your Words, and we're actually doing another intake next month, which is exciting. It all came about very organically. If you'd asked me even 3 years ago if that was something I ever thought of doing, I would have said, like, I don't think so, But I basically, in my second year of freelancing, a full-time freelancing, I had the target of hitting 6 figures, and I was able to hit that and then was able to sort of keep growing from there. I would share on an Instagram, which was very haphazardly maintained, my work Instagram, I will say, but I would share like positive, testimonials and whatnot. And I just had people starting to reach out to me and ask just for like tips and advice on, how I was running my business and the business side of writing, which I think is something a lot of writers like aren't too sure about. And then I actually was asked to go on a podcast, and I spoke a little bit about my self-employment journey. And from that podcast, I had people reaching out and asking, and I just popped on and they were all asking the same questions. I really found it was all the same sort of things that people were struggling with. I had a lovely girl reach out to me from Canada who said, oh, I really resonated with what you were saying. Like, would you jump on a call with me? I'd love to pick your brain. I was like, oh, of course, so I just jumped on like totally free and just, had a chat with her. And it was and she reminded me a lot of, myself, that she was 24 and that, and I was like, oh, it was so rewarding and cool to speak with her and help her on her journey. And then I ended up just popping on my Instagram a little story saying, like, would anyone be interested in a course on this? Like, and I had like 12 people say yeah, and they paid, for that beta round. And then I was able to sort of really slowly build it up, from there. So that was my first intake. And then I just kept going from there. So I love working with writers. It's such a cool thing. I think also, I've been doing this now for years, so it's just fun to be sharing what I've learned and doing something adding something a bit different into my day, and seeing their results is the most rewarding thing. Like, one of those girls from that beta round in that first 12, she's gone on to hit 6 figures in her like first year of copywriting, which is awesome. And it's like that's such a cool thing to see, just being able to help people. But yeah, I'm definitely still writing myself. That's a huge chunk of my time still. Like, for a couple of reasons. I love writing, and I'll always need to do it in some capacity. I love the copywriting and the brand and the creativity that I get to experience. I love the client side of things, and I also think it's really important if you are helping people build a business in a certain market to still be in that market yourself. I think it's important to not just say, oh, I did this 10 years ago and here's what worked for me. It's like, okay, well, 10 years ago a lot has changed since then. It's going to keep changing. So being able to just really keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on out there is really important as well. Yeah.
So how is your course structured?
So it's a 5-part framework, and I've divided it into the steps that I found to be really helpful. So the first one, unsurprisingly, given the topic that we've been talking about, is all about mindset. So sort of like taking people, and it's like a pre-recorded, self-paced vibe, but there's like worksheets and exercises and downloadables and everything all throughout. There's a lot of templates all throughout. So the first module is all about mindset. Then the second one is, I call it setting up your parachutes. Like you leaping into the unknown, you wouldn't do it without something strapped to your back. So setting up the parachutes, so like the practical side of the business, and then it's all around setting up your how to find clients. That's number 3, where to actually reach out to them. And then, number 4 is how to reach out to them and connect with them. And then finally, it's how to convert. So proposals that actually land those really high-paying clients. So it's that sort of step-by-step process. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That sounds great. I'm really practical.
Yeah. And not too overwhelming, not too much. I think, the 5 breaking it into those 5 modules for me felt like a nice sort of achievable way
Mm.
without overwhelming people. Yeah.
I want to talk maybe a little bit about the feast and famine cycle because we're
Mm.
seeing, I know at Rachel's List, we're seeing writers either struggling or,
Mm.
really drowning with work.
Yeah.
Are you sort of seeing that as well with
Yeah.
the people in your course?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's just like the age-old dilemma for freelancers,
Mm.
isn't it? Like, just it's such a, and I'd be lying if I said I had this perfected myself, but I
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, it's just there's a degree of it just being a little bit of the nature, but I definitely don't have, when I first started, I had that extreme, like the panic when you're like, oh, I've got no work, or the extreme stress of like, oh my God, I've taken on way too much work. Like I don't experience that degree of feast famine anymore, and I think there's a few things you can do to sort of help that. I definitely think financial management is massive. And that's one of the parachutes I talk about in my course as well, like always having like a little nest egg to just fall back on and just know, because it gives you that sense of security so that you don't panic if work doesn't come in or you don't land a project. And you also don't fall into that trap that I was in of, undercharging and then overwhelming yourself and just, coming into that really sort of stressed out, uncertain state. Also, like having regular retainer work is always a really great way to help. Even if you can get a subcontracting sort of situation with an agency, there's so many of them that have overflow of work like all the time. That's like a really helpful way to just know that your bills are covered and just sort of take the pressure off. Also, casual, if this works for you, because I think everyone's different, but if you're the kind of person who wants there to not be so much pressure on your writing, you can get a job in like a hospitality or even like Ubers or whatever it is to like have your bills paid, make sure, know that you're covered, and then you can take on work that feels right for you rather than having to take on everything because you're scared that you're not going to get anything soon. Liz Gilbert famously worked in a bar for such a long time, even after Eat, Pray, Love. She really, and just being really vigilant, with your time and your calendar and your processes, I find. And that's not something that comes naturally to me, but that is something, again, a skill I've had to really sort of cultivate and still have to hone. But having like intake periods, I find, where you're like, okay, I'm bringing on another client here, and then this is the onboarding, this is how long this takes, that's how long this takes, and then when something's wrapping up, and that if there's nothing coming up in a couple of months, you can ramp up your marketing so that you don't have to like come to the point when you're really stressed and needing something then and there.
Interesting what you say about agencies, I thought, because what we seem to have heard a lot, especially over the past year, is how much they're, not like they're sort of reducing their need for writers. Have you seen evidence of that at all?
Not personally, no. I know that I think being a freelancer is quite desirable to them because you are less liability for them, in terms of, rather than maybe like in-house staff might be changing, but
easier to dial up and dial down
exactly,
the talent.
like, and if you do a good job, you just make their life so much easier if they can just send something to you without sort of thinking too much about it, and or you commit to something like a 6-month contract or those kinds of shorter stints. I've found to be still quite popular. And also, agencies, like when they land another client, they'll often not have the resources to support it at all. So then they kind of scramble to like, oh God, we've got to deliver on what we've sort of pitched for. And there are just so many out there.
There are a lot. So where do you find most of your clients?
At this stage, for me, it's a lot of word of mouth. I have found that to be a big one, but obviously that's not always been the case. It's not always the case to this day. Like I still get work on Upwork. I have a profile there, and I can get work that's like still paying well. I'm always conscious of that on those kinds of sites, but I still find work on Upwork. But my main one is LinkedIn. If there are jobs going on LinkedIn, and I always advocate this to anyone, like I'll just always go over and above. If there's something that I really want, I'll never just apply the typical I'll do that as well, but then I'll also deep stalk the decision maker, the hiring manager, whoever, and I'll find their email address. I'll find, I won't harass them on social because that's super annoying and invasive, but unless it's like a business one, but I will, and I'll send I'll spend time like writing a really, really strong email, similar to that one I went to Bronwyn McCann with at Cosmo back in the day, that is super targeted to them and really stands out. Like, for example, there was one like maybe 6 months ago, it was an agency actually that were specializing in dental, like dental aid, like clinics, and doing copywriting for those. And the tone of voice that they had in their job ad was so specific. And I wrote the email in that exact tone of voice, just because every chance you can get to really showcase that you'll nail it for them, and anything you can do to stand out, I'll always go over and above. And I find LinkedIn to be the best way to find so many jobs, so many businesses now are just going straight to LinkedIn. Like they won't even list on their websites their job openings anymore. Like especially if it's freelance, I'll just go to LinkedIn. So I do find that to be the best place. Yeah.
Interesting. Let's talk a little bit about personal branding. Do you think that you need to build a personal brand for a successful freelance business? This was something we were talking about with our previous guest as well, where a lot of people are just managing to just bring in enough work and get enough work and make enough money without having any kind of social presence or personal brand. But what do you think?
Such a good point. I think it can definitely help, to have a personal brand, if especially if you're someone like, Amy Williamson of Damn Right, who we're just talking about. She's got a very strong personal brand. And so I think the clients she attracts, that's, boom, you're resonating with that brand straight away. And if you're wanting to work with a specific kind of business or a specific, there's a few copywriters that I sort of follow that have really, really strong personal brands. And I think that would absolutely serve them. I also don't think that it's totally necessary. Like if you're a little bit more introverted and, you don't want yourself to be all out there and that's absolutely fine. You don't have to run and say, this isn't for me, it can't work. Like I think it can absolutely work. I know copywriters, who don't have social presence or who don't even have like proper websites that are just getting like word of mouth. If they're doing a good job, people will send it to them. So I definitely don't think you need it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'd love to also talk about Substack because you in your very cleverly worded pitch to us, you mentioned Substack, and I think it's a big thing with writers. We're certainly seeing a big growth in it, and writers doing it more. Do you want to share how it works and what it's doing for you?
Yeah, I'm super excited about Substack. It's been around for a long time, actually, but it's just recently I'm hearing about it from so many angles at the moment. It's really having a moment. But basically, it's like a combination of MailChimp and Blogspot from back in the day and Twitter/X. So it's like a newsletter platform. Anyone can go on and create their own publication, can create their own Substack, and you can write about whatever you want. There are people on there who are using it for like personal blog sort of essays. There are publications that are hosting, like news style publications that are hosting on Substack and like raising millions of dollars to support their business. That you can sort of take it whatever way you want. And you can it's a subscription based model. So you can have people subscribe to your publication and it can be either free, you can decide, or it can be you can put some content behind a paywall if you decide. You set the price, you decide what's either free or behind the paywall, if anything. It's all up to the writer. So it's a really cool place for writers who want to explore that and want somewhere that's just free to write. Even if, you don't want to monetize, you just want to get writing regularly and connect with fellow writers. It's a beautiful place to do that. Or if you want it to become a business and, build up, paying subscribers, it's a great place to do that as well.
When we were doing the summit and putting the summit together, I was so keen to get a session on Substack and on newsletters and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I felt like we're a little bit behind in Australia in terms of writers who are making a living out of it. Do you think that that's the case? Like you see in America,
and the UK as well.
And the UK, who've left these big mastheads and have replaced their income within, however long.
Yeah.
Are we sort of working towards that? Are some big writers in Australia working towards that? Because you're more in that community, I suppose.
Yeah, I hope they are, and because there really are, there is a lot of money to be made if that's, a primary goal for you. There are writers, and as I said, there's like full-blown publications on there that are making millions of dollars
wow.
through Substack. Just through Substack. And I think those bigger writers who have come over and they've already got a lot of people already know who they are, people already, trust them and buy into them. So, they can go on and I think the subscription model is I would say better for our mental health than, the meta model where we're just sort of being, it's that attention economy where we're just inundated with ads that are trying to keep us on there. When I found when I started with Substack, I would go on the platform and I would come away still feeling energized and still feeling creative and optimistic, and inspired rather than depleted and all of the things. I would feel quite the opposite coming off Instagram. And I think that's a really positive thing. I think, there's a huge opportunity on Substack right now for sure, because it really is having a moment. And the thing is with Australia, our population is obviously a lot smaller than the US. And on Substack, I can see in my demographics, a lot of my subscribers are based in America and the UK, because they're the ones who are sort of primarily on these platforms. But I'm seeing a lot of Australians on there too. There's some really cool Australian writers doing awesome things on Substack. So it's just feels like a really fun, exciting place to be. Yeah.
And have you already monetized your Substack, or are you in the process of?
I would say I'm in the process. Like, it's definitely not my goal right now for Substack. I'm just really enjoying like building community and building, connection with our other fellow Substackers who I'm in this like Substack group with writers from all over the world, which has been super cool. So it's just, I'm enjoying the connection side of it. And I'm also just enjoying having a writing practice that feels like it's for me, rather than for any other agenda other than just like a bit of an outlet for me. And I write a lot about the process of writing and about, the experience of writing as a freelancer, and really let my creativity guide me in the week. I do 2 newsletters a week. On Monday, it's like a roundup of some job opportunities I've seen on, LinkedIn and other reputable sources. But then I include like an inspirational quote and, like the book I'm reading, or, a win from the community that week. And then on the Thursdays, I'll put out a more of a sort of long form piece. And sometimes it can be like a bit of a narrative, like of an experience where I learned something, or it might just be amusing, like whatever I feel like at the time. And that feels like a really fun outlet for me to have.
Yeah.
It's just nice to connect with other writers in that way. But I have had actually someone already start paying me, which was not part of my plan yet. So I was like, oh, cool, thank you.
Nice.
But it's really fun. Like, there's so much you can do with it, and they're building more things into the platform all the time. Video. I think you can do videos now, live videos, and all kinds of different functionality. So yeah, I would advise anyone who's just starting out and wanting to explore their writing without necessarily an agenda, or build up their confidence, have a play on Substack. And you can also connect with a lot of new writers on there, which is always positive as well.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the new blogging, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I think there might be, I mean, I don't know, this might be optimistic of me, but I think there might be a need that people have to get back to long form quality substance, thought provocation, rather than this surface level stuff that we're just flooded with. I think there's a reason it's really pumping right now on Substack. I think it's because people are really hungry for that kind of quality again. So I think that's a positive thing for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what sort of challenges are you seeing out there for freelancers and creative people? I mean, you must hear a lot from people doing your courses. What challenges do they bring you?
Well, a lot of the people doing my courses, a lot of it for them is like a fear of how do they even get started, that sense of overwhelm of, when you're just starting out, or if you're wanting to take your business to the next level. And I think there's a lot of, fortunately, like practical steps you can take to sort of overcome those. But I think in general in our industry, AI is, the big bad wolf that people are very scared of. And I totally understand that. I definitely went through, stages of grief when ChatGPT was launched. I was like, denial, and I was angry, just like the proper roller. And then I just grieved, and then I was like, okay, I landed on acceptance, and I've since been able to, more or less embrace it. And I do believe that I do tell anyone doing my course or anyone I speak to embrace it as well, and just get really good at it, become really familiar with it, because I do think there's definitely opportunity to come out of it as well. Obviously, no one can predict the future, but I do believe there's opportunity to come out of it as well. I'm already seeing a lot of jobs come up that are like within, prompting and editing AI work. A lot of times you can actually take on more of an editor sort of style role, editing something that, because AI is still not there with, the style that it just sort of comes out with off the bat. And I do think as well, being an expert in communication, which all writers are more than they probably give themselves credit for. If you can string a sentence together and distill an idea in a way that's engaging and connects with people, then you're an expert in communication. I don't care how long you've been doing it for or what, like you just are. That's a skill that most people don't have. And so to get the most out of AI, you need to have those abilities to brief it properly, prompt it properly, know what to look for, like know what a key message is, know, how to break it down. And that's a really like powerful skill to have. So I say to writers, like, put that as a skill that you're offering, like AI, working with AI prompting, AI editing. That's like a service that you can also offer clients to sort of get around that, because the businesses who are culling writers, I mean, it's funny. I don't know what you ladies have found, but I found a mix, being out there of there's businesses that are looking for people in AI. Then I've got clients who specifically say, definitely no AI copy, like no way. And then I've got clients who say, yeah, let's try AI. Like, let me know how you go with it. And I've got a real kind of mix, but I haven't lost a job to AI to my knowledge yet. I have heard of some people, that's happening, but I think those are the clients that don't really value your expertise anyway. So they're probably not the ones that are going to be giving you, paying you what you're worth in the first place, and there are plenty of businesses that still do. So yeah, it's an interesting space for sure. But I think it's like that, there's like that quote, AI won't take your job, but someone knows how to use it will. So just be the person who really knows how to use it.
Yes.
Well, that's a delightful segue into asking you about your favorite tech tips and digital tools that you'd be lost without, which is something that we try and ask every guest.
Yeah.
So what are your faves?
One of my faves, I love Canva. I adore Canva. I am not a design girly. I'm a words girly. And if I'm sending off a really high, a big proposal for a big chunky project, I need it to look professional. I need it to look really good, and Canva just makes that so easy for me. So I'm a big fan of Canva. Also a bit boring, but my accounting software, I use FreshBooks for that. And that is something that for me, it's been so important. It helps me to stay so much more organized than I would be otherwise. There's like time tracking tools on there and all kinds of things that have made it a lot easier for me to sort of be more organized. And ChatGPT, I do use it. I use it as more of a brainstorming sort of partner at times, or if I feel stuck on something, I can use it there. But I also really love the images it generates. I use it for the images that I put in my Substack, and that's something. So I really enjoy creating little artworks with it. It's quite fun, and again, like prompting it is a skill in itself to get the image that you want, but I'm getting better at that all the time. And it's great because you can do it really quickly, and then you can put it in your article without needing to sort of be careful with copyright infringements and whatnot. So I do find that to be great, because anything that helps kind of complement writing without needing to take a lot more of your time to develop it, that's what I find to keep helpful.
Wow, Lizzie, this has been so interesting, so brilliant. Such a multifaceted career, and I think it's really good. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. So please tell our listeners where they can find out more about you.
Oh, thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great. I would say the best place is just to go to createyourliving.substack.com, and I'll send you ladies the link. I think it might be easier to just pop it in the show notes there. That's where you can have a look at the Substack, and also my Instagram at Lizzie Mulherin. I'll have a link in bio where you can get to my different websites as well, because I'm just about to launch my new website. So depending on when this goes live, it may or may not be there, but have a look at that one and you'll see.
I can't wait to see your new site, because I love both your other sites. So this is going to be interesting. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. The web design has been amazing. So yeah, she's been fantastic.
Fabulous. Well, yes, thanks so much for being our guest this week. That brings us to the end of the show this week, sadly, but we appreciate all of you out there who are listening. And if you love the show, please leave us a rating and a review on the platform where you find your podcast.
That's right. And don't forget, you'll find show notes in your podcast app. And so head there to find out more about where you can connect with Lizzie. That'd be great.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to our wonderful sponsors, Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software that helps freelancers run their business with confidence.
And don't forget, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can check your welcome emails for an exclusive discount code on the annual subscription rate. You can also find it in the private Facebook Gold group, or just contact us at hello@rachelslist.com.au.